So what's up, man? So Bad Boys for Life, Bad Boys 3, went to go see it Friday. Look, so when they first came out and said they were gonna do a Bad Boys, I'm thinking, man, these niggas done got old. It's gonna be like Lethal Weapon 4 when Danny Glover had the pot belly and Mel Gibson lost the jawline and it was just washed. And I wasn't really, I didn't go into it with high expectations. But I went and I watched it and put it like this: when the second one that came out, I was 13. I begged my pops to take me to go see that movie. I'm 29 now, so 17 fucking years, and Martin was ready. Was ready from day one. Will was doing so many other movies. Some were good, some were tank jobs. He did something with his son. He did our Robot. He did a bunch of movies over the last few years. He's one of Hollywood's top paid actors, but he said they waited so long because he wanted to make sure the time was right. And I went and seen this movie, and this shit was fucking good. Like, it was the perfect mix of humor relief, comedy, but action, fast pace. Michael Bay. Sometimes it's over the top, but this shit was fire, man. The storyline was deep. It was more like Mike Laurie's backstory. I could kind of relate to some of the Mike Laurie shit because Mike Laurie's going through a point in his life where a lot of his friends and peers are having families and settling down, and he's still living that bachelor lifestyle. And Marcus, excuse me, has a grandbaby and he wants to retire. And Mike is like kind of insulted by it. Like, how the fuck you gonna be Bad Boys for Life? How you gonna do that? And there's a point where Mike gets shot. Spoiler alert. And after he gets shot and rebounds, I love the way they shot the scene where he's in the hospital and then it says 6 months later, and you see everyone crying. You're like, oh shit, he died. And no, they were at Marcus's daughter's wedding. She married Reggie, the dude they was picking on. So after Mike gets shot, he wants to fucking get revenge, and Marcus is like, he's like, what? He's like, yeah, I want to turn up on these niggas. He's like, turn up. He's like, motherfucker, you need to turn that shit down. Like, Mike is going through a midlife crisis. He still think it's 1995, and they constantly bring that up. And one thing I said was they were gonna have to bring in some youth to make this shit realistic. That these two niggas in their 50s was out here still kicking ass and catching the baddest criminals in Miami. So they had this Amico team with these young kids, and the Asian one kept giving Mike a hard time. That was pretty funny, and they needed that to make some believability in this shit. So long story short, it's kind of a far stretch, but the Mexican girl, the main antagonist, the Mexican lady, breaks out of prison and she sends her son on a manhunt to Miami to kill everybody that got her locked up, including Mike Laurie, who was undercover. So judges, forensic sciences, everybody. And then Mike finally puts it all together and he tells Marcus, I had an affair while I was undercover with this Mexican kingpin bitch. And he says, we had an affair, and I believe that kid who I had a fight with, who's been shooting everybody, who we're looking for, is my son. And I'm like, oh shit. So that was the whole story. And it was fucking good, man. It was the perfect mixture of everything. And like I said, now some people are like, is it better than two? You can make an argument. Two was the funniest one. One is always the best one to me. You can't recapture that when they was in their 20s and Martin was like 80 pounds lighter and Will didn't have no hair dye, and this is before he was even with Jada. You can't go back to that. I don't think you had to be around in the 90s to understand how epic that was for the culture, because that was when Will and Martin was on their shit. Martin and Fresh Prince was the hottest black shows on television. We had never seen them two together, so it was epic when they did that shit. You can't recapture that feeling again or understand what that moment meant unless you was there. You seen it, you know what I'm saying? But I think you should watch all three of them back to back and judge based off that. But right now, I think this is better than part two. And I didn't think they could top part two. I really thought this was gonna be whack, but it was good, man. I'm not gonna spoil it too much. You can't really spoil a cop movie, in my opinion. But I will say I was hurt when they killed Captain, man. Cap was probably the only character who was in all three movies, and they gave him a slug right to the fucking neck. That shit was kind of hard to watch. But yeah, Bad Boys 3, Bad Boys for Life. I give it 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 is a good rating. I think this shit was funny. It was good. Martin was on his A game. Will was doing his thing. This was the right way that they did it, and you could tell it was gonna be a spinoff with the son and Mike Laurie. How's the son gonna get out of jail after he killed all those people? I don't know, but it's Hollywood. It doesn't have to be realistic as long as it's entertaining. 8 out of 10. This shit was fire.